Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my Winter Holidays 2020 AM reading update. Once again, I have not gotten to this space in this video, I guess I should say, on Friday for Friday reads. I have more of an excuse than usual this time. Well, my usual excuse is I don't know, being lazy on Fridays after I get home from work and generally not feeling like I'm far enough in my weekly schedule. But anyway, my excuse this week was that on Friday, Christmas, I was in Baltimore with my family and I didn't necessarily want to lug all my heavy technological equipment with me and couldn't be too antisocial, I would think, with my family, although I was a little antisocial in terms of reading, so there's that. But anyway, let's get on to the books. The first book I finished this week was my book club book, Her Fearful Symmetry by Audrey Niffenegger. To recap, this is a kind of magical realism ghost story literary fiction book taking place in a London flat that overlooks a historic cemetery. The flat was bequeathed by the woman Elsbeth to her two nieces whom she'd never met before, on the stipulation that her sister and brother-in-law could never set foot in the flat because of past drama. And the two twins are mirror twins, and they're strangely infantile and like look 12 and dress alike. They both get involved with two different men who also live in the flat. One of the twins is basically bullied to death by the other one. And the second part of the novel, which I read this week, I didn't like the first part very much. I liked the second part even less when we get more into some supernatural stuff. And I generally tend to not like a lot of magical realism, and it seems like lazy writing for literary fiction writers. And I didn't think that the characters were very well defined. I thought that there were a lot of plot contrivances. I just thought that in a lot of ways this book was a big waste of time, and I didn't like it. Some of the writing was okay. One of the characters I liked, and I like the idea of setting a novel in a historic Victorian cemetery, but hopefully somebody else will do something better with all of that. So yeah. The second book I finished this week was much better. This is my page 112 tag book, Do Not Say We Have Nothing by Madeleine Thien. I am continuing my streak of liking my page 112 tag books, and I'm really glad to like this book because I know that Sean the Book Maniac, who started the page 112 tag, really likes this book as well. This is historical fiction taking place in communist China, for the most part, mostly under Chairman Mao and then his predecessor, but it follows several members of two families for about 50 years, or 70 years even. It goes back and forth in time, we have two timelines going at once, and the second half is even called Part 0, and the chapters go backwards. This is actually another book where I guess you could say there are some fantastical elements, but it works better for me in this because we're talking about sweeping history here. We're talking about this huge cultural revolution that really impacted the lives of billions of people in humongous life-changing ways. We cover a lot of things in here, such as the land revolution, where landowners were persecuted and shot by former peasants. We go into purges in academic settings and bourgeois settings of the cities. A lot of the characters we follow are in fact musicians, like Young Sparrow, who was the topic of my page 112 tag. The fantastical element is that these families are transcribing and sort of adapting this book called The Book of Records, which it features two historical characters who I think are fighting in World War II against the Japanese occupation, but as these characters transcribe the book, they add in the names of their dead from the communist regime as well. And there's just so much in here, like about calligraphy, Chinese calligraphy, and then also music and math. So there's just, I guess, a a sense of lyricism in these different types of etymology. And I'm probably being a bit liberal with that word, but obviously Thien was biting off a huge track of something about trying to understand the world, and particularly understand what was going on in China, and these things that the characters cleaved to in terms of calligraphy and music and math, you know, made them feel, you know, more alive and more like characters. I mean, maybe not 100% for me. I wasn't completely immersed in their lives, but certainly, you know, their adherence to these disciplines made them fascinating. And I guess, broadly speaking, in the two timelines, we're following two men who loved each other, but were often on different sides of the track, as it were. And then in the more modern storyline, we're following their two daughters, whose lives briefly intersect, and then the one daughter kind of disappears, and the other daughter seems to be spending the rest of her life looking for this woman, and also finding out more about their two fathers who met tragic ends in the past. So that's something you know even before starting the book, but as somebody who is more interested in the journey than the destination, that's quite fine by me. I learned so much, and it was so emotionally resonant with the characters, and made me think a lot about communism and the Cultural Revolution as it touched China. I mean, this isn't a beginner's book about what exactly happened there. The end didn't hold us by the hand, but I think I got a general gist or feel of what it might have felt like to be there. And it was just fascinating and moving. So definitely, if not a more enjoyable, certainly a more impressive book. And now I am, well, in the middle, really slightly more toward the beginning of a book that was on my anticipated reads for 2020 list. I think this is the final book that I own that I haven't read yet from that list. And anyway, it is the Toni Morrison Book Club by 4 literature professors, Juda, Bennett, Winnifred, Brown-Claude, Cassandra Jackson, and Piper Kendrix Williams. Actually, when I first heard of this book, I thought it would be more literary criticism, but it's actually kind of more of a memoir where they talk about their lives and about broad issues, social and socioeconomic issues, and occasionally relate it to Morrison's novels. Although there have been, you know, fleeting references or like examples from those novels. So I'm reading this book now rather than earlier in the year for a reason. I wanted to get through Morrison's 11 novels, and I've gotten through 10, and that's especially nice now that, you know, when random examples come up from most of the novels now, I'll at least have some memory of reading it and some way to know what they're talking about. So yeah, so far I'm really liking it. I will give my full thoughts soon, if not on this channel, then through Goodreads and my literary newsletter. Speaking of Toni Morrison's 11th novel, here it is. The last one she wrote shortly before she died, God Help the Child, which I certainly hope to be reading soon, because it was my ambition to read all of Morrison's novels in 2020. I might be reading this instead in early 2021. I do have another book that I said in my last video that I'd want to read soon. This is The Apple of Sodom by Mary Hoffman that I would like to get to soon as well. So it'll be one of these coming up next on the docket. And from there, I guess I have to admit that although I would love to read both of these books in 2020, I'm not sure I have the time. It seems like December might be yet another month where I only read 6 books rather than 8, and that'll make my total for 2020 of books I've read 90 books, which I know isn't anything to sneeze at, and I don't really want to be in competition with anyone else. Although if I am in competition with myself, that is 4 books less than I read last year. But I also don't know if I want to be in competition with myself. I don't want to hold myself too much to, you know, the number. So long as I read 6 to 8 books a month, I think I should be happy with that. I mean, I wish it were 8 books every month, but 6 is okay. I feel like I should give myself wiggle room. I don't want to read too quickly. I still want to get something out of all of the books I read and make allowances for other things going on in my life, or even like big sweeping, world events like coronavirus, which, took a lot out of all of us. So really what I'm saying is I think it's going to end up being 90 books and not 92, and I should be fine with that. It'll be a good way to round out 2020. And that about covers it for me. This is also my last Am Reading update for 2020. I have a couple more videos I want to squeeze in before the end of the year, starting with my December book haul, which now that the holidays are over and I've gotten a haul of books as gifts, I can do that. So stay tuned in the next couple of days for that video. I hope all of you who celebrated had a very Merry Christmas. I hope everyone is excited over what books they have procured for themselves or through others, and are gearing up for, the last few books of the year. Hopefully they are great ones, and I'll be looking at your videos to see. Well, actually, I'm looking now at a lot of the favorites of the year videos because those are really fun to watch, and I'll be putting out my own, I believe, on New Year's Day, as is my custom, so stay tuned for that as well. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.